Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Nicolas, and I am here to share with you a part of my life story regarding how I survived satanic occult influences and entity possession. So right off the bat, I like to say that this is not a video proving about satanic dark forces influencing modern day life. This isn't a video about proving if entities are real or if entity possession is real or not. This is just me sharing my experience from what I lived and through being deeply involved in different cultures, different groups of people, and what I've seen, what I experienced from being in those groups of people, and from working with many different clients on these subjects. So there are many videos out there on YouTube and Facebook that are talking in great detail about what I will be speaking to. So you can do your own research as you'd like to kind of go down deep rabbit holes of anything that I'm speaking about. So go ahead and do your own research on that. And here we go. Thank you for being here and thank you for hearing me. Let's start from what I'm going to be talking about. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my life story, my childhood, early teens, up until my life so far, really, related to specifically how I feel I was greatly influenced by satanic dark energy, specifically movies and music, games, TV shows, pornography, and how the some of these movies and shows and games and so on and so forth could be possibly programmed or imprinted with specific vibrational frequencies that cause harm and suffering. I'll be talking about how my life changed from my childhood to my teens. I will be talking about then how I feel like I had entity possession, how that affected me. And then I'll be speaking to how I healed and became empowered from this dark, energetic, satanic influences and entity possession, what I did to heal and become empowered from it. And then give some suggestions from my life, working with other people, seeing other people dealing with similar issues, on tips for parents or for teens or young adults or adults to help to go on their own healing and awakening journey with this, as well as offering a very powerful but simple and practical clearing that you can use to help with these issues, and also some links to a fellow light worker who gives wonderful transmission, healing, clearing decrees and talks on YouTube that are very powerful. I'll share those at the end as well. So let's start from the beginning. I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, and I was the youngest of 4 kids. So I was the youngest, 2 older brothers, 1 older sister who were much older than me. So my oldest is my sister, and she's almost 60, and I am currently 38. So there was a big age gap between me and my brothers and my sister. I grew up to a very loving, supportive, present household. My parents and my siblings were very present, supportive, loving, caring people. And I grew up middle, upper class in a very safe neighborhood. I got to explore all the different things I was interested in and passionate about. And I experienced as far as that I'm aware of, I experienced no deep trauma or intense situations as a kid, besides being birthed in a hospital and going through that experience. But besides that, I didn't really experience any traumatic, traumatizing, deep wounding from my family. And I was born into this life, or picked up at a very young age, this great fascination to all things Halloween. I was really into the Halloween holiday, but all year round. The first thing I would draw were like monsters, and I was really into Halloween walkthrough interactive haunted houses. So I got to about wanting to really watch horror movies. So my older brothers were really into sci-fi and horror and even special effects makeup. So they introduced me to scary movies, that were appropriate, I guess, kind of for my age. And then more and more and more, I would watch scarier and scarier, more gruesome and violent and horrifying movies. But around the age of 6 or 7 or 8, I would start designing front yard haunts, as they're called. I would make my front yard of my parents' house into a walk-through haunted house for trick-or-treaters. And then that turned next year into the front yard in the basement. And then that turned into almost the whole front of the house, part of the house, until eventually I got into working at professional haunted houses. So it's important to note that, again, I was a very happy-go-lucky, peaceful, loving, respectful, healthy child. I loved life. I was full of energy and vitality, and I was very into Buddhism. My sister is a practicing Tibetan Buddhist, as well as she works with energy, and she's psychic and so on and so forth. So she introduced me to Eastern modalities and yoga and Buddhist practices and meditation at a very young age. So I was fascinated with all that world, as well as the haunted house Halloween horror world at the same time. I'm a Gemini, is my sun sign, so maybe that has something to do with it. So I'm growing up, deep fascination for haunted houses, horror. And then at the age of around 10, I get introduced to my first rock metal band, which was White Zombie, the album Astro Creep 2000. And I saw the album, the artwork in the album. I saw him and his music and the energy behind it. And I was like, whoa, this guy loves Halloween as much as I do. And this music is so creepy and cool and intense. And what is this? And that was it. That was the doorway to, 20 years or so into that music scene of heavy metal, rock, and got into dark and death metal and satanic music, but got into the White Zombie. 1997 comes. I'm watching TV with my parents. It's the MTV Video Music Awards, and closing out the show was Marilyn Manson performing the song Beautiful People. He's dressed in women's clothing. He's got cuts all over him. He looks all of him and his imagery and his band is very, intense, dark energy. And I heard that song and I saw him, and that was it. I was completely hypnotized by him, his music, his look. He was my God. I was obsessed with him. I wanted to be like him. I couldn't get enough of him. I dreamt about going to his concerts. His pictures ended up all over my walls. That opened the door to listening to other bands like Slipknot and Cradle of Filth and Slayer and Deicide, these bands that are very blatantly open about working with darker forces and satanic energy. And again, you can do your own research if you want to about these bands and about what I'm talking about. So I'm really, really getting now involved at the same time around 12, 13, 14 with working again at the haunted houses, doing this professionally every Halloween, makeup, acting, helping design and build the haunted houses. And listening to more of this music, this very intense, dark music that is openly has satanic imagery, and just the lyrics are very the energy behind it is just very dark and disturbing, really. But I loved it. And I started watching more and more horror movies that were more and more gruesome and violent. They scared the crap out of me, but I loved them. I watched the movie Exorcist, was shown to me by a very not kind person at the age, I believe I was 9, 10, or 11, right around there. I don't really remember. But I was staying at a cousin's house. I've never told anyone this story before besides my wife. but I'm doing a share here, so I'm going to share it. I was staying at my cousin's house. Her boyfriend at the time, who was not a good person, he was an alcoholic and not a kind human being, was like, "Oh, you like scary movies, huh, Nick?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I do." Again, I'm 9, 10, 11, right? He's like, "I'll show you the scariest movie of all time." He goes to Blockbuster, okay, rents The Exorcist, comes back. It's late at night, it's like 7, 8, 9. We watch the movie. And if you've ever seen that movie, it's very intense. Catholic exorcist priests say that that's the most realistic possession movie that has ever been made, according to them and what they experience as Catholic exorcists. So I watched that movie and it was very traumatizing for me. A lot of the trauma that I did experience in this life was self-induced, was self-created. So for a year after watching that movie, I had trouble sleeping. I was so scared that my bed would start shaking or I would get possessed, and that was going to happen to me for a whole year, every night. And one day my mother came into the room after a year of working with this and helping me to feel safe and all this stuff. And she brought in we're not very religious. I don't consider myself Catholic or Christian, even though I do work with Christ, Buddha type energy. But at this time, I wouldn't consider myself Christian or Catholic, but my mom was very spiritual in that faith. And she brings in a blessed Bible and crucifix from Jerusalem that was beautifully made out of this like specific type of wood and everything. And she places the Bible with the crucifix next to my bed and says, "As long as this is here, Nikki, nothing, no harm will ever come to you." And something clicked, and I believed her, and I felt it. I felt the love that was behind all of that, and that was it. And it cured my fear of that specific thing, of being afraid. So that happened. And then years go on. Again, I'm getting more involved in horror movies, more involved listening to specific, dark, intense music, more involved in the haunted houses. The age 15 comes, and I smoke cannabis for the first time. And after that, it's just like an endless whirlpool now of I try other drugs. I get into the rave scene. I ended up being a very quote unquote famous underground rave DJ, free drugs, girls, parties, events that I should not have been at. I'm so blessed I never got arrested. I started experimenting again with all different types of drugs, drinking, smoking cigarettes, hanging out with practicing Satanists. Thank God I never did any black magic or satanic practices, but I was very fascinated with it and hanging out with people who were doing that and dressing very goth. I was very gothic in my approach, my look. I got into more and more darker music. I started working for more gruesome and intense and violent haunted houses, violent looking. And the scenes were more violent and more gory. And then this is going on all through my 20s. Okay. At the age of 21, I stopped doing drugs, hard drugs and cannabis because I felt my body dying. Again, I'm still practicing yoga and meditation and different spiritual energy practices. So I felt my body dying from the drugs. Age 21, I cut everything out cold turkey, started practicing yoga 3, 4, 5 times a week. Also, during my 20s now, I'm still involved with the haunted house, still watching horror movies, still listening to the music, still also on the spiritual path. Because my sister was much older than me, she has shamans, counselors, energy workers, flower essence people, all these different people I was blessed my whole life to experiencing. I always had support besides my family. I always had, again, a therapist or a shaman or a counselor to work with. So I met I met some high up people in the haunted house industry. And around the age of 28, I got all the way up to working with Rob Zombie, who is the singer of that original band that introduced me to all this, White Zombie. His original band is called White Zombie. He's a very, very, very popular rock and roll star. And Rob Zombie is also a very famous horror movie director. He's made some of the very, very popular, gruesome, horrible traumatic, disturbing movies that have been in theaters, at least. So I got up all the way to working with him. Okay. Top of the top. And I designed one of his first movies, House of a Thousand Corpses. I designed that into a walk-through haunted house. We'd get thousands of people a night. It's huge. I helped design it, build it, create it, acted in it, managed it, security, all the things, right? And it was themed about serial killers. All right. Every room was a different scene from a real life serial killer experience. Okay. And I'm doing this thinking, oh, I just like the art. I just love this. I don't know why. I love life. I'm happy. I feel so blessed. I'm teaching yoga full time, but then going to work at the haunted house at night, going to teach a meditation class and eating organic food, and then going to work on a room where there's severed heads and blood everywhere and at night, and thinking that this is just art. It's just something I'm loving and I'm passionate about. And I get deeply, deeply more and more into the dark music and the horror movies and all this. Okay, it just keeps progressing. All right. Same that year, working for Rob Zombie at the haunted house was the last year that I did this, because at that time, for a couple years leading up to that, I was working with this beautiful woman named Dolores. And she was an art therapist, certified hypnotherapist, child counselor, and worked with doing depossessions and entity removals. And I've never had that up until that point. So we do about maybe 5, 6, 7 entity removals, okay, throughout the couple years. One day, feeling really intense, okay? I go to her and we feel that something's up. We need to do an exorcism, depossession. Lay down, we do the whole thing, right? We clear whatever was there. We clear it in the way that we did it. I open my eyes from the clearing when it's complete. I open my eyes. I sit up. I'm laying down on a table. I sit up. I look at her. I rip off my shirt, throw it across the room. Had some satanic images on it or whatever. And I'm crying, saying to her, my interest and passion of all these dark things, of listening to the music, of watching the movies, of working at the haunted house was gone. It was gone. I had no desire, interest, or passion, or quote, love to listen to the music, to watch the movies. I wanted to spend my whole life designing and creating haunted houses. I wanted to open up my own haunted house chain. That was my biggest passion. It was gone in that moment. So I believe that saved my life. That combined with everything else I was doing and everything that led up to that point, I really think it saved my life, because I was still at that point drinking a lot of alcohol, seeking out women, doing destructive, harmful things. Even though I was practicing yoga all the time and meditating and all these other spiritual things, and being in that energy of the haunted houses and listening to the music, there was still encouraging me to do destructive things, and it was all gone. I stopped drinking. A year later, okay, from that experience, I end up moving to Portland, Oregon. I meet my wife 7 months later after moving there. And now I have a beautiful son. I love my life. I'm the healthiest I've ever been. I feel like I'm in the peak of my health. I've never felt so clear and powerful and strong in my body, mind, and energy, and spiritually. And I don't know if it was an entity that was attached to me, if it was energy, if it was a curse, a spell, whatever these names we give these energies, right, that can interfere and harm us and cause destruction in some way. They're not evil. They just exist, right? These entities exist, just like there's entities that we call angelic, or animal guides, or spirits, or the Christ, or the Buddhas. There's also the opposite of that exists. And I was being very influenced by both, it seemed. And once I did this main clearing, all those passions to the dark and interests and involvements were gone. So I don't know what was it? I don't know, but it worked. and it saved my life. So I just like to speak now to this dark, satanic, occult influence that I believe I experienced and many others are experiencing. We think that the music industry, the movie industry, the video games, the clothing, any multimedia platform, TV shows, apps, YouTube videos, we think these are all just entertainment or it's just art. And I'm not saying that every movie, the whole music industry, the whole movie industry, the whole clothing industry is like this. I'm not saying this is a blanket statement. Everyone and everything is like this. However, from my experience and from what I've researched and from what I've experienced with other people, that there is dark, lower vibrational energy that is destructive and harmful. And when I use the word satanic, I mean that that's what you can call some of these people that are practicing and working with these energies, that these energies can get imprinted, infused, binded with certain movies, music, TV shows, video games, and entertainment. There's a lot of people from the movie industry, music industry, entertainment industry, high up pop stars, rock stars, rappers, what have you, and also record producers who are not in that industry anymore, coming out and saying, I've been in rooms, a ritual type room where the master copy, this is what they're saying, the master copy of an album before it goes out to mass production. The master copy gets put on an altar and gets prayed over, quote, demonically. Harmful, lower vibrational, dense, harmful, destructive energies, demons, entities, whatever you want to call it, prayers, spells, curses get imprinted into the music or the movie or the game or the TV show. And we're powerful beings. We can do this. We can also do this for love and for positivity and creation. But this is happening, it seems. And again, you could do your own research on YouTube, on Facebook. Just type in the search satanic music industry, satanic movie industry. And there's a lot of people that have done a lot of great videos on speaking to what I'm speaking to. And the only reason I'm mentioning this, I can't prove it, of course, but I'm mentioning it because the music that I listen to seem to have, in the movies and the involvement with the haunted house industry, seem to have a great negative effect, harmful, destructive effect on me. Even though it helped me to become where I am, and ultimately it is positive, it was leading me down a very dark, destructive, harmful path. And I went from the way I was growing up to all of a sudden I start listening to Marilyn Manson and getting in more into the haunted house and the movies. And then all of a sudden I start engaging in these harmful, destructive activities and thoughts and depression and anxiety and all these other things, right? Eating horrible food. And I do have some addiction. I do have addictive traits coming from my bloodline. So I'm not saying this is, again, all movies, all music is like this. I'm not saying that if you work in the haunted house industry, you're going to be influenced like this. This isn't a blanket statement. I want that to be very clear. Okay. However, I've been deeply immersed into the metal scene, the black metal, death metal, new metal scene for many, many years. I've been around a lot of those people. I've listened to a lot of the music live. I've experienced a lot of it. I've hung around a lot of Satanists and people that would practice black magic, dark magic for many years. I've been in the haunted house industry for 20 years. I've been to and hung around the people and saw what they do and what they're experiencing. And many people seem to be not doing great, suffering. Is it because of X, Y, and Z? Of course, but can it be greatly more influenced and expanded upon because they're listening to what they're listening to, because they're eating what they're eating, because they're watching the movies they're watching to, because they're in a haunted house room that's filled with the depiction of demons? Can that be causing harm to them as well and encouraging them to do more harmful, destructive things? I'm going to say maybe, high chance. I feel it happened to me. And I mean, dude, let me tell you this, okay? I was at a haunted house convention thousands and thousands of people from all over the world would gather for a haunted house convention, okay? In St. Louis, Missouri. They're one of the biggest, famous haunted houses in the world was open, okay? And you could walk through it and just hang out in the rooms and check out what they did and observe it. You could just walk in and it was like just observing what they did, learning. I sat in one of the rooms for probably an hour meditating. The room was filled with severed heads hanging from the ceiling, bodies that were been put on stakes, okay? Demons coming out of the walls, horrible, creepy music. I felt so at peace and comfortable in there. I didn't want to leave. I was like, wow, what is this? So I sat with the energy and I meditated and I was like, I feel like I've been here before, or I've lived this or something. So could that be past life related? Maybe. Could it be an entity that was attached to me that was like so encouraging me to be in that? Maybe. I don't know. But it made no sense because, again, I was a loving, happy, joyful person. And we all have light and dark in us, right? We all have good and evil, quote unquote. We all have, every moment we have a choice to make. Do we do good or do we do harm? So that's all in us. And maybe I was just deeply experiencing that, but it didn't make sense. And why did it all leave when I had that final entity removal? So again, it seems like there are certain movies and certain music, video games, TV shows and such that can possibly be programmed with specific dark, harmful, destructive, satanic energy. Again, do your own research on this if you want. When you listen to that music or you watch the movie, the Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan, his daughter on a TV show from the 90s or 80s literally said this live, like, we program our music and program other people's music, popular music, with satanic energy and dark forces. And when you're listening to the music, you're partaking in a satanic ritual. She says this. Okay. So I don't know. So it's important to note that something happened to me, right? I got into this satanic dark energy, Marilyn Manson specifically, who was clearly in the Church of Satan involvement. There's a photo of him with Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan, a certificate that he signed saying he is now a member. He is now a part of that energy and that church, that cult. And right after he did that, about a year later, he comes out with his hit album, number one hit, Sweet Dreams. A year later, he goes on a world tour. He was a no one before this. A year later, he goes on a world tour called Dead to the World Tour, where he was cutting himself on stage, ripping up the Bible, satanic imagery everywhere, dark, dark, dark music. World tour with 9 Inch Nails doing this, okay? I did the 9 Inch Nails, I think, before that, and then he went on his own world tour. But something happens when you work with this dark energy. You can get power or fame or the things that are earthly. Like I got money and I got women and I got drugs and food, and I ended up working for the top of my industry, where I could have been well off for the rest of my life probably with the offers that I was getting that I did not take. So that's something to know too. They say that people sell their souls, right? There's these different rappers, pop stars, rock stars, movie stars. Something happens to them. Something goes off. They get really popular out of nowhere. And here's the thing that I will close with, and I want to mention, is that these rock stars, these metal stars that are clearly satanic and promoting Satanism and dark energy, clearly something's going on there. However, there are very popular movie stars, pop stars, rock stars, and so on, that can also be working with this similar lower level dark energy. And it's not in plain sight necessarily. And it's popular music. And a lot of people are listening to it and they think it's just this happy music or whatever, or the rap. Oh, it's just rap. Oh, the song's called Demon Time. That's just art. He's just talking about something else, even though the video is about him killing people. Oh, that's just art. Oh, he's just playing around. I don't know. I don't know about that. So music you wouldn't think, movies you wouldn't think would have this darker energy imprinted into it. It has it. I've experienced it, and many other people experienced it. Again, do your own research on this. So to the parents that have young children, please be very, very, very mindful what you watch. Some of the most innocent looking kid shows can be infused with this dark energy, let alone be way too fast and stimulating for their mind. Okay? The kids, so be very mindful what you let your young children listen to and watch. The teenagers, the parents that have teenagers or young adults who may be very into the darker music or violent video games or horror movies. Again, this isn't for everyone that's into this, but a large amount of them, if they're into it and they're suffering, they're depressed, they're suicidal, they have eating disorders, they have health issues, they do drugs, they're in gangs, they're doing black magic, something's off. That's not natural. That's not natural. We're designed to be happy, loving, joyful, creative, vital human beings. And if we're not, then there's an imbalance. And that's part of our journey here, right? But the darker energies can just make it harder for us to get to that state, yeah? So if you have teens, young adults, what have you, that are into these darker things, what I did and what I would suggest is educate them. Have them listen to this video, have them watch these other videos that I've talked about, and educate them that, hey, this can be going on. You could be being influenced. Your energy can be influenced by these darker, lower vibrational satanic energies that may be programmed through the music, through the movies, through the what have you. So educating the teens and the young adults, right? Or yourself, if you yourself are experiencing this. Get off of screens as much as you can, or for them. Right? I think no one should have a social media or internet access till they're 18. Personally, that's my opinion. But get them off screens as much as you can. Get them to watch less horror movies, listen to less of the music, and it might be really hard, right? Because there's this fascination, there's this obsession, there's this hypnotism to it. So as much as you can, get them off screens, and then get them out into nature. Get yourself out into nature more. Get into going on walks, going on hikes, going camping. All this stuff can really help. And then finally getting them, if they're open to it, doing some sort of energy clearing, or for yourself, energy clearing, entity removals, depossessions, as well as soul retrievals. That's gathering parts of pieces of yourself that might have split off and left from trauma or drug use or what have you. So that's important to combine entity removal with soul retrieval. And then, see what happens. See what happens when you start educating them, getting them off the screens more, watching, listening to, playing less of the things that might be causing harm. Their life might change. If you want more assistance with any of this, or interested in learning more about entity clearing and entity removal, you can contact me through my website, torencollective.com. I'd be more than happy to help in any way that I can. I just feel really called to tell my story. I feel like this is just coming up in many different ways right now through different scenes. And I feel like I really survived something that could have taken me down. And I see it affecting a lot of people. And this, I feel, needs to be brought to the light. This is my third video making this. I've tried making 2 other videos, and there's always been some sort of interference or problem. So may this get out to the people that need to hear it and want to hear it. And I would like to share with you all a clearing that is very potent, powerful. It's calling in Archangel Michael. This has nothing to do with Christianity or Catholic religion. This is an energy, a being, an energy signature that works with clearing entity, unwanted energy. And we're just using it at the name Archangel Michael to represent this energy. But I'd like to share with you this clearing statement, command. And I just suggest listening to it, closing your eyes, taking some deep breaths. And then you can return to this clearing at any time. You could say it every day if you want, multiple times a day, and see if this may help you in any way. So here we go, taking a few deep breaths. I invoke Archangel Michael with the 5th dimensional tube of light. Michael, please place this tube of light around me in this lifetime and in all lifetimes, all planetary systems and all solar systems, all alternate realities and all parallel realities, all alternate universes and all parallel universes, as well as all source systems in this time and in all times. Michael, use your sword of light to clear me of all foreign energies, all thought forms and beings. When I am clear, escort these energies into the tube of light. Return them to the fifth dimension to be transmuted into another form of light. Close up my aura to the influences of all beings except of my higher self, the God consciousness, my guides and guardians. So be it, and so it is. Amen. Taking a full breath. You might be feeling some energy move, some tingling, some shaking, some discomfort. Saying this more and more may help you if you felt any response to it, or you can discard this, but this is just a way to help clear these energies, to help clear this programming. I'm also going to share with you in the links of this YouTube video a fellow light worker. His name is Steve Noble. He gives these 2 clearing, healing transmissions that are clearing and canceling any type of satanic, dark, occult energy that you may have received specifically from any multimedia entertainment industry, anything you've watched or listened to or played, and anything that may be harming you from experiencing those forms of multimedia imprinted with dark, lower level harmful energy. He actually gives a clearing to reverse it, to clear it, to cancel it, or remove it from your physical body and energy body, as well as another healing that clears any time that you did any harm, you worked with any type of form of Satanism or black magic that you were involved in or that has been put upon you. They're very, very powerful healings. They're very easy to listen to. They don't take very long. You can listen to them as many times as you need to. I'll share those links in the description, as well as how you can get in contact with me. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time and for your energy and for listening and hearing me. And may this get out to those who are wanting and needing to hear it. Many blessings. Thank you so much.